Hi, everyone. Thanks for stopping by the Time We Discuss studio for another engaging conversation with yet another exciting professional. This channel's really young, so I'd appreciate you hitting all the usual buttons, the like, subscribe, bell, all that good stuff. Doing this keeps the YouTube gremlins in line, helps the channel grow, and helps me get even more obscure professionals. Still trying to get that astronaut. All that being said, stick around because I have John Swift here, and it's time to discuss what it's like to be a licensed professional counselor of mental health. All right. So tonight I have John Swift with me tonight. John is a licensed professional counselor of mental health. John, thank you so much for joining us. So I don't have a whole lot of experience with counselors or mental health. Honestly, whenever I think of counselors in mental health, I think of Dr. Katz, and there's no squiggle vision here. I don't know if you deal with that at all, but what is your job like? What is a typical day like for you? Tell us about it.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for having me on. And, my job is actually very exciting. I get people that come in from different trades, different careers, and I learn from them as much as they learn from me. So my typical day, on some days, I see as many as 10 individuals come in. To more of a lighter day where I see maybe 4 or 5. And like I said, the careers over the time I've been doing this have been from people running for public office to filming directors to professional athletes to, teachers, parents, kids. It really, I have like the full gambit, and even those that have retired. And the problems that they encounter is quite a variety. And it is just fascinating to me. And just being there for people that come in and just looking to kind of make sense, what is it that I'm going through? What is going on with me mentally, emotionally? Is it just me? Am I an island, or are other people going through this? So, it's really a great field, and people just being able to see people walk away, feeling better about themselves, and how to really handle their situation, is great for me to see.
I can only imagine. Yeah.
It's just a lot of fun for me.
Now let me ask you this: Has it changed at all with everything with COVID? Like, as far as what you're seeing, what people are dealing with, has that changed at all, or is that that was essentially a blip on the radar as far as what you're seeing?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So prior to COVID, a lot of the individuals that I saw were family situations, divorce, with adults trying to adjust, or new phase of life type things, whether it's a stay-at-home mom now returning to her career, or some kids just dealing from some behavior problems. Then we had COVID hit, and after COVID, I see a lot of anxiety, and that seems to be widespread. I mean, not only for students, all the way up to adults, just not knowing, just being on the roads itself. I never used to be panic on the roads, but now I can't drive up to Philly. It's just too crazy for me. Or I can't go into Costco, BJ's without feeling just I'm closed in with all these people. And even students trying to adjust to going from home and attending class via Zoom to being back in the classroom, how to associate with one another, and that social interaction. Just a lot of anxiety with what people think of them, and it just seems so much exasperated than before. You have normal development. Normal development for kids in grade school. You have that whole view of, what do kids think of me? Where am I in the pecking order? Where do I fit in? What's my role? am I in the popular group, or am I in the nerd group, or that's all normal. But now it's like to the extreme of, um, well, what do people think when what I say, and do they like me? Do they think I'm an idiot for like saying certain things, or I don't know where the boundary is. I don't know, because we'll be joking around, and I don't know what is too far. I don't know, like, what I say, if people still find it funny or they don't. And so you have that going on with students. With adults, it's that constructive criticism they take very personally. And whereas before they didn't. Before it was a learning opportunity, but now it's just like, how dare you say that? Or it's more of nobody has an opinion. It's more of like, I'll say an opinion, but it's people interpret it as fact. And so we see that. So where my work comes in is trying to change that around. Really it's that cognitive behavioral therapy. You change the behavior, you change the thought, you change the thinking pattern. And so getting to work with adults to change that thinking back to, hey, this is a learning opportunity. It's about the quality that you are producing, not the quantity. Let's go back. And so that's what I'm really seeing now. A lot of my clientele, generalized anxiety is really big right now.
Okay. Now, in your current role, I know you've been doing this for quite a while. Do people come to you? Do you go out to homes? Do you do telehealth? Is it a combination of all three? What's your current role like?
So my current role primarily is in an office setting. Okay. I do see a few clients via telehealth, and that is just because of distance. They might be in the southern part of the state, and so obviously they're not going to drive 2 hours to see me. So we do telehealth, but the majority of my clients are in office. And aside from like the anxiety, which I just talked about, is my specialty is also working with trauma victims. So victims of abuse, victims. I've worked with individuals that were raped. I'm working with a few people from the EMS, kind of what they deal with from day to day. So I'm working with a couple of nurses, a few police officers, just trying to deal with some of the trauma that they experience, and how to really kind of separate that out and how to deal with that. So when they go home, that they can be the parent, or the husband or the wife, whatever it is, their role is at home, and separate what work is work, home is home, and how to really separate those two. So that's kind of what my role is. So kind of the dual thing, but like I said, most of it is in office setting.
Okay. So jumping briefly to education, I think. So you said within the state, I'm assuming that, and you said you're a licensed professional. So I'm assuming the license was within the state. I assume, is that how that works?
Yeah. So I have my master's in mental health.
Okay.
And typically states have their own requirements. Mental health is a crazy thing, and I really can't speak on other professions like lawyers and doctors and how it goes state to state. But the way that licensure works within the mental health part, and social work kind of is on the same line. But I'm licensed in the state of Delaware. Now, if I were to obtain a license to practice in Pennsylvania as well, Pennsylvania says to me, well, okay, we understand that you're licensed. However, to meet our criteria, you have to complete X number of hours of supervision. and that those hours, it varies from state to state. Um,
Now, let me
Pennsylvania, I
interrupt
can't
you
think
for a
of
second.
Mhm.
Do you have to physically do those hours in that state, or would like them dropping in on a telehealth session, does that count as hours for another state?
So yes, I would have to do that in Pennsylvania. So
Oh,
someone from
wow. Okay.
Pennsylvania would have to oversee me doing those hours. Um, and that's speaking for mental health. Um, and so that's a problem, because it's like, well, how am I going to do that with my job that I have now? You know, whereas if I'm a teacher, if I have a teaching certification in the state of Delaware, well, you have reciprocity with other states. So I could easily go to another state, show them my teacher certification of, say, special education, and they would be like, okay, great, we'll transfer license. I can maintain that license at the other state level just by completing a few continuing ed courses, or I can pause my license in that state. I say, I'm going to pause this. Don't let it expire. And so if I ever come back to that state, I basically unfreeze that license, and the state may say, okay, you just need to complete a few continuing ed credits,
Okay.
or, I show them my license from the other state is still active. They'll reciprocate it. No problem. Mental health, not that way. So it's like, well, you got to complete these hours in order for us to certify you.
Okay.
So it is, and that's one thing that us mental health therapists just don't quite understand. It's kind of like, I'm licensed. I have the master's in the master's degree. It's very, it's just very confusing and very difficult, and not sure the reason why. But
Okay. Well, hopefully they figure it out.
Right.
So you said you have a master's degree. So do you need to have a master's degree to do what you do?
No.
Okay.
So I got my undergrad in education. It was special education, regular education, K-12. And that's what I did for, as I would say, in my first part of my life. And so with education, they're always encouraging you to, learn more. And I figured, why not go into and take a few courses in therapy, and kind of, since I'm dealing with children and parents, it'd be a great thing to have on hand to have these courses. And so, so then I ended up going for my master's in mental health, and really, really liked it. So I decided, continue on with that. And I did so I was living out west at the time. So I was teaching for a little bit, did mental health for a little bit. And then when it came back time to move east, then that's where I found out the whole mental health thing was just, it was a crazy obstacle course. So I continued teaching, and the state of Delaware decided to catch up with the rest of the nation. And so I didn't need to jump through all these hoops. They said, oh, you have your license from out west. Okay, we'll recognize that. We just need for you to complete 1,200 hours of supervision, and which means that I meet with I meet with individuals, but then I have a supervisor that oversees me,
Okay.
makes sure that my treatment plans are written. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do as a therapist. That supervisor would submit those documentation to the state, and then the state would then grant me my license. So when I came to Delaware, they gave me basically a provisional license, which was at the time, I want to say, it was probably an LA CMH, so a licensed associative mental health counselor.
Okay.
And then once I met the criteria, then the state gave me the LP license. And the LP I do not need supervision, but I still do supervision. I still meet with my supervisor, just so we can trade off like suggestions, because there's times we get some tough individuals in, and it's like, I don't know how to handle this one. What do you suggest I do? Or vice versa. My supervisor might say, hey, I have this client, and they kind of tell me what's going on, and would ask if I have any experience or what do I see from an outsider's perspective, and then we kind of work together. So you don't need to have your master's, but in my case, it just suited me well.
That makes sense. Now, if someone were starting out, they're just beginning their adult life, we'll say, and they're contemplating going to college or whatever, and they're considering mental health profession, similar to like one you described, what would be the recommended, in your opinion, like what's a good path for them to take as far as education goes to follow you in this career?
It's a really good question, because I often reflect back, if I would do something different with mental health. And, a lot of people ask me like, well, why don't you do social work? And for me, as a young adult, I was thinking social work was more of like overseeing like foster kids, like dealing with that situation, like kids in the courts. And that's not what I wanted to do. I'm just like, I didn't want to be connected with all of that. Like DFS, the Department of oh gosh, what is my train of thought here? Division of
Family Services. Is that what that is?
Yeah. And so they're the ones that will come in. If kids are being physically abused, they'll pull them out of the home. And for me, that's what I connected social work with. I'm just like, I don't want to do that, which is not the case. Social workers and mental health workers, we're pretty much one and the same, except where there's a little bit of difference. And the difference is that social workers are more connected with community resources. And social workers are more likely to be hired through veteran affairs, so like VA hospitals. They're more likely to be hired through the Department of Defense. They, even if they're looking at working in a hospital setting, social workers will be hired. Although the both of us do the same work. The only difference is, like I said, social workers are more connected into community services. They know exactly what's like, okay, if you are an abused woman, I know what homeless shelters are available to you. I know which ones take children, or even, an abused male. I know which ones, they know the community. And that's where mental health, that's where we differ. Mental health is just that. I look at mental health, and don't get me wrong, like we can tap into resources and be like, all right, you know what? Let me see what I can find out for you. But that's not our concentration.
That makes sense. That makes sense. So if I wanted to transition, I'm having a midlife crisis, we'll say, and I'm looking to change careers, and I wanted to follow you and your footsteps. What would be the recommended path there? Do I have to just take a licensure exam? Do I have to find a sponsoring supervisor, essentially? What would I need to do?
So when you're transitioning from one career to another, like you'll have to take the courses. You'll have to get a degree in mental health or social work, because,
and it's either bachelor's or master's. Doesn't matter which one.
Right.
Okay.
And most people that are transitioning from careers, they already have their bachelor's, so you're just going to go for a master's.
Yeah.
And that's what you're going to do, because the master's is going to give you a lot of the background needed to be a successful therapist. Once and the programs are different. Once you complete the program, then you have to take a licensure exam. And then once you complete the exam, then you get your I'm going to call your associative license, your beginner's license. And then after you practice for, so many for so many years or so many hours, and you get your supervision, then you get your professional license.
Okay.
And so and there's continuing ed that goes along with it. I mean, every year. So I have to renew my license every 2 years. With that, I have to do what's mandated by the state, and probably actually on the federal level, is within that 2 year period, I have to take a course on suicide prevention. I also have to take a course on ethics, and I have to take a course on cultural diversity. And typically, I mean, they're real easy courses. I get two credits or whatever, 5 credits, depending on the length of the course. I have to earn 40 continuing ed credits within the 2 years. So actually, I'm coming up on my 2 year renewal, and I'm like halfway at my CEU mark. So I just have to get some courses under my belt. I already took the suicide and ethics course, and I did some trauma work. So side note, I also my specialty is trauma. So a lot, like I said earlier, a lot of people that come into me were dealing with some kind of abuse. So I do have to take some courses to upkeep my trauma certification. So that's so yes, I mean that's how to upkeep your license and to kind of keep current with what is going on within the field itself.
Okay. All right. Awesome. You give me a lot of good stuff for me and probably everyone else to think about. So surprise question. Given the opportunity to talk to anybody, past, present, future, who would you have a chat with?
Oh gosh, so many people. It's funny because one of the opening lines I do when I'm like going into like an unknown environment, that's like a social event, they ask like what I do, and I tell them I'm a mental health therapist, and I usually say like, don't worry, I'm profiling everybody, I'm analyzing everybody, which is not the case. I'm very good about separating work from pleasure, but it's always a good joke, and it kind of gets people a second glance like, really, you? But I think not to be political, but I would really love to sit down with Donald Trump just to get in his head. I just to see like really what is the guy thinking? Like what was his childhood like? What was his teenager years like? What shaped him to be the person who he is? And that's the thing. Like all of us we're shaped by our own experiences, and honestly, I feel bad for the guy because I think he's missing out on a lot. But yeah, I would love to sit down with him and just pick his brain just to see what life was like for him. Especially just that coming from a very wealthy family. What is that like? Because it's opposite from you and I. We didn't experience the opulent lifestyle, so it's kind of like, what was that like for you as a kid, as a teenager? Like, what'd you do? Like, how did this, parent, like, what'd you think of your parents? Did you get attention? Did you get enough attention? Oh, I would have a field day with them. Like, I would have like a whole 5-day, like what
1 week seminar.
Like 1 week seminar. Like, come on, man, tell me all about it. Let's talk about dreams. Everything.
Well, if that ever comes up, you need to come back on and share with us, because I'd love to hear that as well.
Right,
John,
right.
One thing I like to do, I like to offer the person I'm speaking with the opportunity to talk about like a pet project or the company they work with or something like that for like a good minute or two. So is there anything you'd like to share with everyone, a pet project or something like that?
Sure. So I work for a company called Therapeutic Wellness Group. And people can just Google that, therapeuticwellnessgroup.com. Takes you to our webpage. It's run by originally was founded by 3 women, and they're great. it's a great company to work for. I love it. And our company is actually growing right now. We just hired on 2 new therapists. There is a total. Oh gosh, let me count here. It's what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's like 6 of us right now. And that's including the 2 people we just hired. And it's a great bunch. I mean, we really work together well. And we see everybody. And like that, be telehealth or in office in the state of Delaware. We're close to the border of Pennsylvania, so we get a lot of people from Pennsylvania that drive into Delaware. As long as we take your insurance, I mean, we can see you in our office. And so, but on our webpage has all our profiles, what we do, what we specialize in, and you can kind of choose your therapist. And yeah, you give us a call and we'll let us know if we have openings, or we can put you on a waiting list. But yeah, that's the Therapeutic Wellness Group.
Awesome.
Awesome
I'll make sure
be.
I'll put the link in the description for everyone, so that'll be good. John, one other thing, I'm gonna put you on the spot here. I know when we were offline, you talked about like dream therapy, which I didn't really know was a thing, but apparently it is. Can you give us like 30, 60 seconds on that?
Yeah, so dream therapy I use quite a bit when I meet with people, and especially when it comes to trauma, or as we're going through the healing process, dreams start to pop up. And so, and dreams are unique to the individual. And so all those dream books out there, you just throw them out, because what is meaningful to you is not going to be meaningful to someone else. So just quick example, if you have a person that has a fear of spiders, versus a person that works at a zoo that maintains like the reptile house or the arachnid part of the zoo, you take those 2 people, and the person that works at the zoo has a dream about spiders, and the person that has a fear of spiders has a dream. It's going to be totally different. The meaning's going to be different. And so it's all about what is happening in your life at that moment in time. And you can't generalize dreams for everybody. So I call, people have their own dream matrix, and where dreams are just for you. And what I do is we talk about the emotion in the dream, and then all the details that go with it, and we just flesh it out. And it's very powerful, because as people heal, the dream changes. It's very fascinating, very powerful tool that I use. And the people just find it fascinating themselves, like, oh, now I get it. And sometimes like they find like, oh, so when I'm stressed, I dream of this, and whatever that may be. So stress in someone's life takes on a certain symbol. And when that symbol appears, it's just like, that's my body telling me I need to relax, and I'm not relaxed. So that's what I got to do. So, but yeah, we can dive in at another session, because we could talk for another hour on dream therapy in itself.
I was going to say, I feel like we've just scratched the surface on that. So yeah, I would definitely like to hear more about that. John, unfortunately, we're running out of time, so I will have to cut you loose. But I just want to thank you again for taking the time to talk to us about what you do and how you got there. That's really, really awesome. So again, thank you, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks again for having me. Have a great night.
You too. Thanks for stopping by the studio. My name is Dan, and this is Time We Discuss. I really enjoyed speaking with John, and I hope you enjoyed the time too. Who knew that mental health certification requirements between states could be such a nightmare? Not me, that's for sure. If you enjoyed the content or learned something interesting, do me a solid. Comment, like, share, subscribe, all those good things. Not only does that help the channel grow, it also keeps all those YouTube gremlins at bay. If you want to join me in the studio, or if you have a profession that you'd like me to cover, please follow the sign-up link in the description or visit timewediscuss.com, and we'll get you on the schedule. Ask your friends or coworkers to do the same. When you sign up, use promo code mental health. This way I know you came after watching this video. If this video brings in another sign up, I'll go buy a jackfruit for the kids. That'll do it. See you next time on Time We Discuss.